This dream is kind of interesting and kind of long, but I've done weirder stuff and talked about weirder stuff. So, yes, this is one of the classics of the dream I remember every now and then. Okay, this takes place in like this really like open hotel, if that makes sense. Like, I almost feel like it was like a hotel that had no roof, but it also had the aura of like a place where you'd like buy snacks or something. I don't know how to exactly say it. Maybe like a small store. Okay, I had a dream. I was going room to room and modeling girly clothes. This guy tried to kill himself by rubbing fish on his face since he had an allergy. In my dream, I tried to tell him not to and tried to clean him up. In real life, I was woken up by a plastic bottle flying across my room and slamming on the wall. I don't know if, real life, ties into these too much, but yeah, every now and then something stupid fucking happens and wakes me up from a great dream. And yeah, it's not really worth getting into. I dreamt I was with an internet celebrity along the lines of CWC who got really into drugs and buying it off of a middle schooler who was trying to pay his doctor bills while his mom was in the hospital. We took the CWC lookalike to a doctor, and they said they look high, with pale white messy mid-length hair and a 1,000-yard stare, mixed with a small smile and the pungent smell of skunk. When we went to the school, the kid ran with a blunt in his hand through the hallways, and we hurt him by tackling him, and his left hand was hurt really bad. We were at home trying to figure out how to get help. Then Liz's grandparents came over, and they wanted to take us all to a basketball game, but there's no room in the car, so I begged my grandma to take us in separate cars. Eventually, my grandma drove us all very recklessly and fast down a street where all the houses looked the same. We started off going backwards really fast, then we turned around and went forwards, and we were all over the road. Then I remember going to my family's house, but we were back in time. My great-grandma was there, and the house looked like something she'd decorate. My granddad and Bonetta were there, and Bonetta was sick, so I held her up. And she kept gagging and what seemed like crying. I leaned against a cabinet in the kitchen and held her until she said that her grandma had passed away. She apparently had 3 grandmas and one passed away. And this is, a really old person in my family, so it's pretty interesting that she had grandma still alive, even though she's like great-grandma age for me. My granddad was there, my cousins, Jacob and Joey, and since it was the past, they seemed really upset and wanted nothing to do with me. They burned incense, and they put it close to my head and blew on it, so it became really hot. Eventually, I started kicking out the supports of the house's deck, and it went down, placed house signs, and saw Bam Margera being normal and happy. Then I finished off the deck by kicking it out from the grass level. The deck collapsed and a lot of people collapsed with it. Eventually my mom started calling me and telling me, "You owe up to $100,000 in damages." Here's a bit of a horror dream, a nightmare, if you will. I dreamt I got on my school bus, and the bus driver was mad. I believe it was because the other bus driver drove away and didn't pick me up, and he had to pick me up, so he got mad at the other bus driver. So he started driving at the other bus driver and pushing him off the road. My bus driver then broke into a police car, had a gun, and committed suicide by cop. The bus he tried hitting still took me someplace in the industrial district, but it was different than where I wanted to go. It was a long warehouse of a store I've had multiple dreams of, where I met a Christian girl. We rode in the car with her to my school, and we got lost on these back roads where we had no clue where to go. I kept trying to go to school. I wanted canned coffee like the drink, but I couldn't find any, and I went to stores too. I talked to my mom and dad, and we got packages, or my dad got packages in the mail at my grandma's house. My grandma was sick. I was in an abandoned mall structure where there were 2 escalators in the middle, and on the bottom half there was a large round building, and on the top of the escalator was another large round building. There's a small parade of children in varying uniforms who seemed to be completely serious, even though they were all very weirdly dressed. In this mall, it was very desolate and run down and dark, and I feel like it was like one linear straight path with just escalators going up, and then like on the right hand side of each floor there's this large round building, of course, like, and it was very, I don't think I seen inside of it, but I'm pretty sure at one point in the mall there was like a mini golf place too, so interesting place. This was a very trippy dream. It's one of those dreams that I don't remember a lot of the details from, and it was very blurry and dark. Okay, I was going on a trip with my parents, and we stopped in town to go to a party. Then we were driving down the highway, and we stopped at a McDonald's. I ordered a coffee and a buffalo sandwich. The coffee came immediately, but then I had to wait for the sandwich for a while. 2 girls then interviewed me at a record shop, and I told them about my life and art. Their friend was mad at me because I didn't understand him well. People flew above my head in a drainage ditch, and I fought them off. And I found floor plans in a building on the side of the ditch, and it was like a movie theater entrance, but it had garbage cans. On the floor was a hefty book and a map, and I read over the map. Yeah, I remember that guy being really mad at me in this like record store. It was just like a gray record store. It was really interesting place. Really cool if I could get that record shop in real life, but the drainage ditch drain was like an online game type vibe, you know, like a multiplayer thing. I was thinking like Fallout in my dream. I don't know though, because I never really played Fallout online. This was a dream that was more akin to a video game. I dreamt I was at my grandpa's house in a video game, then exploring the video game world, and then exploring the same game in a desert. So anyway, at my grandpa's house, I put up an outpost at the back door to protect it. And then I rode a motorcycle and a dirt bike in the front lawn, and met garbage disposal people. And I was walking around like abandoned factories and stuff outside. It looked like Fallout, essentially. Like, it was a really big and vast place. There's not much to go over there, but. And then I dreamt I was at a baseball diamond. This is a separate dream, by the way. This is the next dream. I dreamt I was at a baseball diamond outside the fence, and the people were all playing, and there's an old man and a giant monster. I helped my uncle bring furniture up from his basement at his old house, and there's a kitchen collection that looked really normal. I walked upstairs, and there was a toy gun that shot grass seeds, and I used it to spray the lawn with really large green circle grass seeds. The dream started, this dream started with me riding down the road with Liz and Liz's grandma, and we had all our stuff like we were traveling down with her. So we passed a few trains, and then the road turned into a school. I walked down the hall thinking at the end of the hall, it turned into a tunnel of sorts. I don't know that I was riding there. I guess I was just walking down a hallway in a school. Okay, then I went to class and walked in, and my friend found a book in a teacher's desk, and it was from a very popular and controversial post-punk artist. It was like an autopsy book, and it was from the guy from Christian Death, if you know who he is. We waited for the teacher to get back, and she told us about her collection of new material, like her books and movies that were very obscure and rare. Apparently, one of our students got trapped in Guantanamo Bay, and the feds called the teacher to clear things up. And she said that the student should be released. Then I started making a documentary about my granddad, and I wanted to start making one about myself. At the train part in this dream, Insane Clown Posse was there with their fans. They drove the train, and we drove to get around them. Eventually we did, and they all went into this tunnel when the road turned into a school. And they had merch collections in each classroom, but I didn't buy anything. And then I saw one of my favorite underground folk artists, Peter Stubb, in a graveyard, and he was reading a magazine or a zine. I went to a high school, and it was like 2 main rooms, and the first room had a higher up floor surrounding it, looking over it. And the second room was like a laboratory with a large thing to swing from right over it. I can tell you what that dream was. It was just like my school's cafeteria, and there were it's a really big open space, but just imagine like there being a big hole, like with like stairs. I felt like I was gonna fall in this hole in the dream though, so. And then in another dream I might talk about, I dreamt about walking on the platforms that are above, overlooking the cafeteria. That's going to be an interesting one. And was watching crowd from stage. Man was playing piano. Went to crowd. Met Tony Hawk and Steve-O. Oh, I remember this one. Skating in the hallways with Tony Hawk and Steve-O. This one was at a mall. A mall that looked like a school. Like the combination of a mall and a school. So I saw an FYE type store and went in, and there was only music, and I talked to a priest. This was a really big FYE, and this was like COVID anxiety dream because I was in an FYE and I was trying to avoid everyone, and I was looking through this huge stack of CDs. And then I went back out and was skating until someone took my board, and then I took a scooter and was messing around. There's a small person dressed up like a leprechaun, and I believe in the same dream, since it was a school, I did go to an assembly right after this. But yeah. Anyway, let's go into the next one. This one actually was something I wrote way later after I had the dream, but I always think about this dream, so I wanted to write it down. And thinking about it now, it's essentially Postal 2, Apocalypse Weekend, kinda, but not really, if that makes sense. Because the Cannibal Chinese restaurant, I was doing odd jobs for a Cannibal Chinese restaurant. It was a red and white interior, and it was on a main road. So anyway, you go into the store. It's a really fancy looking place, and they have like these restrooms near the back left hand corner, and all the food is prepared in the back right hand corner. So like I was talking to them, and they were like, oh yeah, bring me heads and stuff. And I drove around in strip malls and went into a restaurant takeout. I believe I was driving around these strip malls and like going to these like restaurants. I don't know how to really explain it. This one's kind of above my head. It's been so long. And then behind the Chinese Cannibal restaurant, there was a really sparse forest where there'd be like little amounts of trees and a bunch of trash, and leaves, all that good stuff. And I explored that forest, I kept going back, and I overlooked this huge drop off into like this drainage ditch. Like, I was really high up, and it was at night, and it was a really pretty thing to see in a dream, you know. And then I explored a mall in this next dream, and it started off in a town-like setting. There were a ton of stories. I don't know if it was the mall, and people were shooting at me like a video game. Oh, I know exactly what this is. Imagine like a big open area where there's like on the sides of this like restaurants, I'd say, and it was like a mall mixed with like these restaurants and this like really river setting, like a city on a river, and there's like a huge amount of stories on this like river with like human built stuff, you know, and people were just shooting at me. It was more akin to a light shooter, you know. It was like one of those games you play in like an arcade, I'll say that. And then the town had a McDonald's in a shoe store in a strip mall area. I tried to recreate that, but it's just impossible. So nowadays I just confuse the memories with the recreation instead of the actual area. But the McDonald's and stuff were down on this really steep incline from like a highway. And then, I don't know what this means. Another mall was like a Christmas place. I think this was more one of those blurry dreams where it's just like, it was a mall, but it was just like Christmas themed. And, I mean, it was just a normal mall. Ooh, I like these next ones. A huge mall with 2 stories, big clothing stores. And I explored the mall, and the mall had a subway-like system underneath it where it took me to a large outdoor area where it was really childish and blocky. Now, there's one place in this mall, up some escalators on the 2nd floor, this green-looking room with like a ton of clothes, green and brown. It was really pretty stuff. It was like really retro, antique, rich people themed. It was great. And then this one, William Burroughs in a haunted elevator, tons of rundown stuff, and it was like a Vegas hotel. So this hotel had a lot of like white areas, like the floor was white, the walls were white, and then eventually I get to this like the walls are purple and the floors are green and the elevators are like, you know, falling in, and I'm pretty sure that the haunted elevator killed William Burroughs in my dream, which was pretty devastating because, you know, even in my dream he's still a relevant person. I was with a gamer and I was showing him how I made music on video games. It looked like Minecraft, essentially, and I was just running around making music on this Minecraft-like game. Flat ground, there's no, like, elevation. And then I saw Scotty, and I was in a lunchroom, and I was chilling. I eventually saw these rooms. I walked down the hallway. They had all this weird stuff inside. I was walking down the street across the halls, and there's a school type place, and I sat at the corner. I drove into this part I remember. I drove into a GTA style heist and had to get illegal weapons from the government on the sea, and we drove down a narrow river in a jungle into a snowy place. This looked like something straight out of Black Ops, but like if Black Ops was massively compromised. This was a very narrow river. And the snowy place looked like something out of like I'd say like Mission Impossible for the Nintendo 64 kinda mixed with Black Ops. It was really minimal, but it was, you know, a lifelike location, and it was very GTA heavy, but like with war themes. I was exploring town with my grandma, and we drove by a bowling alley, And then we stopped at one with elderly people. This bowling alley was kind of grayish, you know. I mean, I had my laptop and it had my hard drive, and I was reversing time and speeding it up and talking to really weird people online. Eventually, I went over to my grandma and brother, and we hung out behind the bowlers until my hard drive started smoking, so I had to put it away. I can't really explain the bowling alley too well. It looked like it was at a strip mall at night. Like, it was very, very tiny, like, location-wise. And then I was with my mom, and we were trying to find a car, and we ended up at an abandoned house, and the abandoned house was empty for the most part, so we left. And then it became a major crime scene that everyone was filming. It was like, it had a window in the front, and I think it was surrounded by windows. The second floor definitely had a lot of windows, but it was just like a 2-story house, and it looked like, literally like a bed, like a bunk bed. Like, it was a really tiny house, but it was big, if that makes sense. Like, enough to be a house. It had a living room, and it had like just like 2 stories, but they were really cramped, and it was a red house. And then, oh, this one's a really good one, but I couldn't explain it enough. I went through this game, and it was like really science fiction themed, but all these rooms look like rooms of like a mixture of a school and an office, and I had to like climb ladders and stuff, and I was solving puzzles, and at one point I had to get a shirt to go down a narrow hole with the ladder so there'd be no claustrophobia. This was like the outdoor portion. There's an outdoor portion with like brick walls and like no roof, and I had to open up this terminal, and I opened another to see a robot teddy bear who tried to kill me. And then I was in my granddad's field in his house, and I went to the forest where a doctor tried to give me a lobotomy. Apparently they didn't think highly of lobotomites, but they still thought it was good to give out. And then I was at my granddad's deer hunting in the winter, walking around the main property, went inside to see my granddad, and I played Death Grips. I was in my classroom, wrote in books, drew abstract paintings. Teacher asked me why I didn't have my parents sign the paperwork. And my DNA merged with everything through my hair follicles. Yeah, it's really surreal stuff here. I remember on my granddad's property in one of these dreams, there's like this white brick house where I met my cousin. I don't know if I'm going to be talking about that, but that's an interesting little thing. And then I went with, this is another dream, by the way. I went with Andrew, all gas, no brakes, to a middle school. And then I went back home while it was raining intensely. I got out of the rain, or I got the rain out of Liz's boat, and I got mail, and it said I changed my name. I did this by accident, and my name looked awful now. I hung out outside on my yard while the boat dried, and my mom and grandma came by. Ooh, this one's a really good one. I hung out with Cemetery, and recorded us going places with my phone in this like really old school. It's like a combination of my high school and my middle school, and it had like really open areas, and like there's this one part where there was like this escalator up to the second floor with this white library. Like there was just like straight line, and it was a pretty sizable room. It was pretty cool. But anyway, we went through school halls to a room where people were watching a movie, and then we went to the library. We came back eventually after I filmed, and then we tried to use water to transfer the footage, like water is a memory device. But we couldn't get it to work, sadly. Oh, this one's a much more complex dream than what I wrote down, but it's just like it's so hard to even like put these into words sometimes. So I was walking down a path with a lot of grass and wire traps along the grass up to a ship that's a restaurant. And then I destroyed a lunchroom with a chair after being rejected from my friends groups. And in that lunchroom, I watched The Simpsons. Yeah, see, that's like not even a full dream, but at the same time, it was definitely a long one. Definitely was, but we'll get into some long ones soon.